There comes a point when a man stops wanting to escape his life and starts wanting to rebuild it. You've failed, lost, and fallen, maybe more than once. But the fact that you're still here means you didn't break. You transformed. The Stoics never called it starting over. They called it returning to reason. The moment when your mind becomes stronger than your memory. This isn't about forgetting the past. It's about building something solid enough that even the past can't shake it. So if you're ready to stop surviving and start directing your life again, welcome to your rebirth. You wake up, the calendar is full, the paycheck is steady, and yet something inside you whispers, this isn't it. That whisper is not boredom. That whisper is the crack in the dam warning you before the flood arrives. Most people call it midlife crisis. I call it a compass. Because restlessness isn't the enemy, it's the indicator that your current skin is too tight for the man you've become. Think of a snake before it sheds. The scales itch, not because the snake is sick, but because growth has already started. I remember sitting in a glossy conference room, tie pulled tight, nodding at slides I didn't believe in. Everyone else was smiling. I felt like an imposter in my own body. That unease didn't ruin my career. It rescued me from staying asleep in it. The world tells you restlessness means you're ungrateful. In reality, it's proof that your destiny has already outgrown your surroundings. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Restlessness is your mind refusing to settle for a life that no longer fits. Listen closely. It isn't boredom. It's your old life knocking from the inside, asking to be let out. Restlessness isn't a flaw. It's the whisper of your future self, asking if you're finally ready to move. When your life is about to change, people start disappearing. Not quietly, not neatly. Sometimes they fade. Sometimes they cut sharp. Sometimes they betray. At first it feels like punishment, but it's not. It's pruning. I once watched a colleague I trusted suddenly grow distant when I started speaking more directly in meetings. At home, an old friend stopped returning calls the moment I stopped drinking with him every Friday. For a while, I asked myself, what did I do wrong? The harder truth was this: nothing. I was simply no longer the man they were comfortable standing beside. It's like climbing a mountain. Some companions can only breathe at lower altitudes. As you rise, they gasp, they resist, and eventually, they let go. And in the quiet that follows, you'll be tempted to fill the space too fast. Don't. That silence is not loneliness. It's the sound of alignment. If you force them to stay, you'll carry dead weight, and that weight will drag you down. Most men panic when this happens. They chase, they beg, they cling to relationships that are already gone. But losing people is not failure. It's the universe filtering your circle, keeping only those strong enough to walk the next mile with you. You're not losing people, you're losing versions of yourself that could no longer breathe in their presence. You glance at the clock, almost 11:11. Later that day, a stranger repeats the exact phrase you've been wrestling with. The next morning, a billboard carries the same word. Coincidence? Maybe once. But when life starts repeating itself, it's not decoration, it's direction. I had a client who, within 1 month, asked me the same question I had heard from 3 completely unrelated people. That was the moment I realized the world wasn't mocking me. It was pointing me toward the work I was meant to do. Think of it like footsteps echoing in a canyon. One sound feels random, but when you hear the echo again and again, it means you're in the right chamber, on the right trail. Most men ignore these nudges. They call them silly, superstitious. But the truth is, synchronicity is feedback, the alignment between your attention and your future. The more you notice, the louder it becomes. And if you dismiss it long enough, you'll miss the door it was trying to show you. Life doesn't send you polite emails. It prefers pop-up ads in your head at 3 a.m. Here's a practice. For 7 days, keep a pattern log. Write down the words, numbers, or moments that repeat. At the end of the week, ask, what decision were these signs pushing me to face? The universe doesn't repeat itself to tease you. It repeats until you finally remember who you are. Just when you think you're finally breaking through, the ground shakes. Projects collapse. People withdraw. Doors slam shut, one after another. Most men panic here. They think the universe has turned hostile. But often this is the pressure right before the diamond is born. The bigger the blessing, the bigger the test. And if you run now, you'll never know what was waiting one step beyond the pain. I've lived it. Every plan failing at the same time, every door refusing to open. Looking back, those storms didn't destroy me. They stripped me down until only the essential remained. That furnace shaped a man who could carry the weight of the next chapter. But here's the wisdom. Not every obstacle means push harder. Some are signals to pause, to ask if the battle still belongs to you. The test is twofold. First, endurance. Will you keep going when it's hard? Second, discernment. Will you recognize when resistance is protecting you from a path that no longer fits? Think of it like a river. Sometimes the current tests your strength, daring you to cross. Other times, the current warns you, this isn't your crossing point. True strength is knowing the difference. Practice this week. Take one major obstacle and ask 2 questions. Does this struggle still align with who I want to become? If ego were silent, would I still choose this fight? If yes, push through with everything you've got. If no, release it before it drains you further. So let me ask you, which of your current obstacles is life's way of testing your resolve, and which is its way of asking you to finally change direction? You've seen the signs. Now comes the sacred work, to become the man who can walk through them without losing his center. You've seen how life warns, tests, and redirects, but transformation isn't complete until you rebuild the relationship with the one person you can't escape, yourself. Next, the hardest contract you'll ever keep, the one with yourself. If this part hit you, pause and drop one word that describes where you are right now. It's how others here will find you. Most men take better care of their car than their own mind. I've been guilty of it too. That's the trap. We polish the outside, but neglect the relationship that matters most, the one with ourselves. Think about it. If a friend constantly broke his promises to you, canceled at the last minute, or spoke to you with disdain, would you still trust him? Most of us would walk away. Yet how often do you do the same to yourself, then expect self-respect to survive? It sounds like a riddle, but its reality. Self-respect doesn't collapse in one blow. It erodes in silence. One missed promise, one ignored boundary, one "I'll do it tomorrow" that quietly becomes never. Like water dripping on stone, it wears you down until trust in yourself feels like a stranger's voice. But every small act of integrity rebuilds that muscle, one repetition at a time, until strength becomes automatic again. Here's your practice for today. Keep one promise to yourself, no matter how small. It could be as simple as going to bed at the time you said you would. One kept promise is worth more than 100 empty ones. The hidden catch is this. Every small promise you keep is like a deposit into an invisible bank account of trust. Neglect it, and you live overdrafted in your own soul. Invest in it daily, and suddenly your words carry weight, not just with others, but with yourself. When you look in the mirror tomorrow morning, will the man staring back believe you? Let's be honest. Most of us have said yes while every part of us was screaming no. Then we sat there resentful, trapped in conversations or obligations we never wanted. That isn't kindness. That's self-betrayal disguised as politeness. Boundaries aren't walls, they're instructions. They teach people how to treat you. Without them, your yes becomes invisible, expected, assumed, taken for granted. I once had a colleague who was too nice to ever push back. Every extra task landed on his desk, while his own work stalled. He wasn't failing because of talent. He was failing because he refused to draw the line where he ended and others began. And it's not just men. I remember a woman who always answered family calls, even during her busiest work hours. She thought it was love, but really it was fear. Fear of seeming cold, fear of disappointing. The result? Burnout, resentment, and ironically, less genuine love left to give. Here's your practice this week. Choose one boundary and pre-decide it. No work calls after dinner. No toxic conversations at family gatherings. No apologizing for resting when you need it. Whatever you pick, write it down and honor it like law. Think of boundaries like road signs. Without them, the traffic of other people's demands crashes straight into your life. With them, the road is clear. You can finally move toward your own destination without collisions. Only you can answer this. What one boundary, if held firm this week, would instantly raise the respect you command, not just from others, but from yourself? But here's the question. If you never draw the line, how will anyone know where you end and they begin? I once accepted so many quick calls in a single week that my calendar looked like a barcode. It wasn't impressive, it was exhausting. That's the hidden cost of handing out yes after yes. You disappear in your own schedule. Energy is life's true currency. Lose money and you can rebuild. Lose energy and even the smallest task feels like climbing a mountain with weights on your ankles. Marcus Aurelius called it guarding the inner citadel. That citadel is your energy. Every careless yes is leaving the gates unguarded. What most people forget is this. Every yes is secretly two decisions, the one you see and the one you don't. Say yes to the meeting that doesn't matter, and you're also saying no to the workout, the rest, the project that could change your life. No is never just rejection. No is protection. Think of your energy like the queen in chess. If you move her on every small play, chasing every request, by the time the real battle arrives, you've already lost your greatest piece. But guard her carefully, and she becomes the force that decides everything. One guarded no can save 10 wasted yeses. I once knew a man who agreed to every late-night request from his boss. He thought it proved loyalty. But within months, his health crumbled, his family grew distant, and his work lost quality. He didn't lose because of weakness. He lost because his no was missing. And here's the reversal no one expects. When you finally say no with clarity, people respect you more. Because a yes without strength is invisible. But a no with conviction, that draws a line, and people feel the weight of it. Every no you honor is a seed of self-respect. Water it daily, and your life will grow cleaner, quieter, stronger. Some people treat you like a priority at first, then quietly downgrade you to an option. And the hardest part? You stay telling yourself the old version of them will return. But memory is not a contract. It cannot hold your worth. I once knew a woman who excused every slight from her partner. She told herself he was stressed, that he'd improve, that maybe her standards were too high. But the truth was simpler. His actions had stopped matching his words. Every extra month she stayed wasn't love. It was delay. Different faces, same pattern. The fear of leaving what already ended. And I knew a man who clung to friends that drained him. They mocked his dreams, dismissed his struggles, yet he kept showing up, hoping their loyalty would eventually match his. It never did. In the end, it wasn't betrayal that broke him. It was his own refusal to leave the table where his value was no longer seen. The conflict hidden in plain sight is this: you cannot claim to value yourself while investing in someone who repeatedly shows you they don't. Real care doesn't need decoding. It's steady, visible, consistent. Anything less is not devotion, it's habit. Think of it like wearing shoes 2 sizes too small. At first, the squeeze feels tolerable, but over time, every step warps your posture, damages your stride, and leaves scars that outlast the shoes. Staying in relationships that don't honor you is the same. You shrink to fit where you no longer belong. Be honest, are you staying because of love or just because of memory? Here's your shift. When words and actions don't match, believe the actions. They're the only part of the story that cannot lie. And the longer you stay in denial, the more you pay interest on someone else's neglect. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, are you staying because of love or only because of memory? And if it's just memory, is it worth the weight of your future? There will be grief in choosing yourself. Grief, then relief. Relief, then peace. And one morning, the air will feel lighter for no dramatic reason at all. You can't carry new peace with hands still clinging to expired love. Release gently and keep walking. If you've ever walked away from someone you loved just to save your peace, write "walked" below. It'll remind someone else they're not alone. Many men carry their mistakes like unpaid debts, replaying the same scene at 2 a.m. The words said in anger, the chances not taken, the weakness exposed. But guilt doesn't pay the bill. It only chains you to a moment that no longer exists. Guilt is loyalty to a version of yourself that has already expired. You are no longer that man, yet you keep bowing to his ghost. Seneca wrote, "The greatest obstacle to living is the expectation of tomorrow." I'd add, the second greatest is worshiping yesterday. Holding on to yesterday's errors robs you of today's strength. I once met a business owner who lost everything in one reckless deal. For years, he introduced himself as the guy who blew it. His failure had become his surname. But the day he reframed it, not as a verdict, but as tuition, was the day he began to rebuild. And I've seen the same with a woman who carried shame over a broken marriage. She replayed every fight, every word, every mistake as if reliving them could rewrite the ending. It couldn't. The moment she shifted from asking, "Why did I fail?" to "What did I learn?" her story changed. The same pain that once chained her became the proof she could endure, grow, and start again. Think of mistakes like broken bricks in a wall. Left shattered, they weaken the whole structure. But if you gather them, reshape them, and lay them again, they become part of a stronger foundation. Your past errors are not rubble to bury you, but material to build with. Try this practice tonight. Write down one mistake you keep replaying, then rewrite it in a single line as a lesson. Don't just cross it out, transform it into fuel. Because the past cannot be erased, but it can be reforged. And that's where most men lose. If a close friend had made the same mistake, would you demand he stay guilty forever? Or would you urge him to rise and keep going? Why treat yourself with less compassion? Close your eyes. If the scene still hurts, touch it once, name the lesson, and put it back down. Forgiveness isn't permission to forget. It's the courage to remember without poison. This is Move or Die Stoic, where men rebuild not by running, but by returning to themselves. Confidence isn't lightning striking from the sky. It's bricklaying, one small action stacked on another until the structure stands tall on its own. Most men wait to feel ready before they move, but readiness doesn't come first, movement does. I once promised myself I'd get back into the gym after a long break. Day one, I was clumsy, weaker than I remembered, and tempted to quit. But here's what surprised me. By week 3, It wasn't the weights that grew heavier. It was my belief that grew lighter. The doubt had less grip because I'd shown up enough times to prove it wrong. And I remember a woman who dreamed of writing a book. For years, she said, "When I'm inspired, I'll begin." The inspiration never came until one day she forced herself to write a single page. One page became five. Five became chapters. Confidence didn't arrive before the work. It arrived because of the work. Think of it like carving an ice sculpture. At first, every strike feels fragile, even pointless. The block seems solid, unchanging. But stroke by stroke, the shape begins to appear. Confidence is the same. Fragile in the beginning, but only revealed to those who keep chiseling before the moment melts away. Confidence grows the same way, unseen, until one day it stands unshakable. Epictetus wrote, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Growth is awkward at first. You'll sweat, you'll stumble, you'll look unpolished. But every act of persistence is a vote for the man or woman you are becoming. Here's the hidden cost no one talks about. What step have you delayed because you were waiting to feel ready? And what would shift if you stopped waiting and simply moved forward today? The universe doesn't reward perfection, it rewards participation. Keep showing up. We live in a culture that magnifies what's missing. More money, more status, more recognition. But fulfillment doesn't arrive through constant addition. It begins with noticing the wealth already in your hands. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." The same applies inwardly. Think back, how many storms have you already walked through with nothing but resilience, patience, or courage? Those qualities didn't vanish when the storm ended. They live in you now, even if you never name them out loud. I once knew a man who felt insignificant compared to his more successful friends. He thought gratitude was too simple to matter. But the day he wrote down 5 things about himself he respected, his persistence, his loyalty, his endurance, his honesty, his humor, he realized he'd been rich all along, just blind to his own treasure. Comparison is just another way to forget who you already are. And I knew a woman who often compared herself to others on social media. Every scroll left her feeling smaller. But when she began ending each day by writing one reason she was proud of herself, whether showing patience with her child or finishing a hard task, the comparisons lost their grip. Gratitude didn't make her stop striving, but it gave her a stable floor to rise from. Think of gratitude like a mirror that reflects not what you lack, but what you already hold. Without it, you chase endlessly and never arrive. With it, you start each day anchored, not desperate, but abundant. That's the moment of truth. When was the last time you looked in the mirror and said, without conditions, "I am enough, even as I keep becoming more"? And what would change if you started tonight? Gratitude is the quiet form of mastery. When you thank life not because it's easy, but because it's yours. If these words helped you rebuild even a small piece, share this video. Someone out there is still in the storm you've already survived. You've rebuilt yourself in silence, not through noise, not through validation, but through awareness. That's what rebirth really means. Not becoming someone new, but becoming the man you were supposed to be before the world distracted you. Every setback was a rehearsal for this version of you. Every loss, a clearing for what had to grow next. So from here on, walk differently, speak less, see more. You don't need to prove you've changed. Just live in a way that no longer needs explanation, because rebirth isn't loud. It's the quiet confidence of someone who knows the storm didn't destroy him. It revealed him.